Welcome to Leading with Heart, the podcast where leadership meets humanity. I'm your host, Sara Valentine, and in each episode, we'll explore how to bring heart into the way we lead, live, and love. HEART stands for hear, empathize, acknowledge, respond, and think. These 5 actions may sound simple, but when practiced consistently, they can transform the way you show up as a leader in the workplace and beyond. So whether you're leading a team, leading a family, or simply leading yourself, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Heart Leadership Podcast. I'm Sara Valentine, and today we are diving into one of the most transformative parts of the HEART framework, the E, empathy. If you want to know whether someone is truly a leader, empathy is the test. Not their title, not their tenure, not how many people they manage or how loud they are in meetings. Empathy. The ability to pause your own perspective long enough to consider someone else's. The willingness to see the human behind the performance, the behavior, or the misstep. In my 18 years in HR, almost every conflict I've ever seen boils down to this one truth. Someone stopped seeing someone else's humanity. Empathy brings that humanity back. And today, we're going to talk about why empathy matters and how you use it without losing accountability. Because leaders need both. Let's dive in. What empathy really is. Empathy is one of those words people toss around, but rarely define. So let's get it clear. Empathy is not rescuing people. Empathy is not fixing people. Empathy is not agreeing with people. And empathy is not about erasing boundaries. Empathy is simply saying, I'm willing to pause my perspective long enough to understand yours. It's curiosity instead of judgment, compassion instead of assumption, presence instead of defensiveness. And here's my favorite definition. Empathy is allowing someone else's reality to matter, even when it isn't your own. And that is the heart of the E. Why empathy is the cornerstone of leadership. Without empathy, leadership becomes mechanical. You end up managing tasks, not leading people. You become transactional without caring. You solve surface problems, but never root causes. You get compliance, but never commitment. You get silence, but not trust. Empathy does 4 powerful things inside an organization. 1, it diffuses conflict before it escalates. When people feel heard, they don't feel the need to fight. 2, it builds trust. People don't need perfection, they need presence. 3, it creates psychological safety. Teams do better when they don't fear humiliation or retaliation. And 4, it increases accountability because people accept hard truths when they come from someone who genuinely cares. Empathy makes the hard moments possible, and the hard moments make great teams. Empathy in the toughest HR moments. One of the hardest responsibilities in HR, and for any leader, is terminating someone. I've done hundreds in my career, and it still impacts me every single time. And honestly, it should. If you can fire someone and feel nothing, that's not a strength. That's detachment. Empathy doesn't soften the consequence. It softens the delivery. because losing a job affects a family, a mortgage, a sense of identity, someone's confidence, someone's mental health. We can forget that. We can forget how deeply a job ties into a person's sense of security. Empathy in those moments says, you still deserve dignity and you still matter. And this is probably the most important thing that a leader can remember in a moment like that. Empathy and feedback, where leadership usually fails. Feedback is another place where empathy earns its keep. Because here's the truth. Most people don't fear feedback. They fear judgment. Feedback is essential. Without it, none of us grow. We stay stuck. We repeat patterns. We keep stumbling over the same things. But feedback delivered without empathy feels like criticism, shame, or an attack. Feedback delivered with empathy feels like support. If you're a manager preparing to give feedback, here's how empathy shows up. 1. Prepare intentionally. Feedback requires clarity, not improvisation. 2. Open with curiosity. Help me understand what's been happening. That one sentence can change everything. 3. Make room for humanity. People carry burdens you know nothing about. 4. Anchor in accountability, not blame. Accountability is an act of leadership, not punishment. It's an act of care. 5. Ask how you can support success, because their success is your success. And 6. Follow up. Because empathy without action is just sentiment, leaders require consistency. So follow up. Empathy and action through Chris Andrews. I want to share a moment from my career, a moment where empathy protected me, shaped me, and taught me what leadership looks like at its best. I have made a lot of mistakes in my career, but I have been blessed to have leaders who have allowed me to fail forward instead of shutting the door on me. One leader I will never forget is Chris Andrews. Chris was an executive director over talent management. During one particular season in my career, I was struggling, not with passion. Passion has never been my issue, but learning how to channel that passion wisely, which is something I still have to work on today. I misstepped with union partners, with upper leadership, and with navigating gray situations that required nuance. I've always had a strong sense of unfair and fair. So when I see somebody being silenced or treated unfairly, something inside me ignites. Back then, I didn't always know how to balance that passion with strategy, but Chris saw that in me. And instead of shaming me or dismissing me, he created a space for me to process. He helped me slow down, helped me see the bigger picture, helped me learn how to lead without burning myself out. There was a moment I'll never forget. I felt strongly about an issue. I was ready to go to the president and CEO, thinking my righteous anger would carry me through. Chris listened. He heard my heart. And then he said, "Sara, wait. Let me handle this." He wasn't silencing me. He was protecting me. He stepped in front of me, not to block my voice, but to shield me from a decision that could have harmed my credibility and career. He led us both through the situation with courage and empathy. He did the right thing, even though it could have cost him. I left that organization, but stayed in touch with Chris. The way you do when people stick. And like so many others, we lost him to COVID in 2020. Chris was a man of faith, conviction, and genuine compassion. He was really good at meeting people exactly where they were, without judgment. And he embodied empathy always. I miss him deeply. And I pray I get to see him in heaven again. His empathy didn't just help me grow, it has helped to shape who I am as a leader. And he is with me with every decision I make. Empathy plus accountability equals transformation. So here's the truth I hope that stays with you. Empathy is not the opposite of accountability. Empathy is what makes accountability effective. Empathy honors the humanity. Accountability honors the standard. Together, they create transformation. When you lead with empathy, people feel safe. When you lead with accountability, people grow. When you lead with both, people thrive. And that is heart leadership. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for being open to this conversation and for choosing to grow with me. Remember, empathy isn't weakness. Empathy isn't optional. Empathy is leadership. And when we lead with heart, we don't just change workplaces, we change people. So until next time, lead with heart, and the rest will follow. Thank you so much for listening. I'm deeply grateful. My hope is that you leave inspired to lead with compassion, strength, and heart in your work, family, and faith. If today's episode encouraged you, share it with someone who could use a little heart in their day. And be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen. Until next time, lead with heart, and the rest will follow.